Australians won't have to pull out their licence at the pub anymore under a gold standard digital ID being developed. Government Services Minister Bill Shorten is today unveiling the new initiative. It means when you enter a club or hotel, a digital token will be sent to that business to verify you are who you say you are without transferring them your data. It also cracks down on scammers by limiting data shared.
Sorry, but I'm afraid you've already eaten an ounce of beef this week. Your Brit card says no. Sorry, sir, but your Brit card has informed us that you have already flown twice this year. You cannot fly anymore.
I've just logged in with my Brit card and it's saying I've already had 4 hours of internet today and it's locked me out.
A good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price.
It's only right to pay your debts. You have to blacklist those that don't.
The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to zero. On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them is this journalist, Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. But he only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
Liu Hu is among a tiny minority of people who have dared to criticize the system, which some are calling a digital dictatorship.
Good morning, citizens. Your overnight account balances have been updated. Time to start a productive day. Final notice, your account balance is below 500. You need 50 credits by the end of the day to avoid automatic eviction. If you have missed work due to illness, you must provide a doctor's note to reclaim your credits.
Any extra credits? Please.
Tensions are high today, with more people planning to join the Citizens Against Digital Control protest. Remember, the government knows who you are at all times. Resisting is not worth the consequences. All of their newest social credit systems are designed to keep you and your families safe and efficient.
Authorities seized a record balance of an individual's credits, citing excessive hoarding.
Traffic violation detected. 7 miles per hour over the limit. 75 credits have been automatically deducted.
You have to be fucking kidding me.
Yep, you got the flu. Your blood work shows a significant iron deficiency. I recommend incorporating more red meat into your diet.
Dr. Jones, your taxes were not filed and have been automatically deducted with late fees. Your medical license has been revoked.
Oh, hell nah, I filed an extension.
Purchase denied. Monthly red meat allowance exceeded. Try mealworms instead.
Can you guys please let me through?
Attention. Unauthorized political gathering detected. Participants' access to financial services has been suspended. Due to the speeding infraction, your car will be immobilized for 3 days.
Fuck you! Take your surveillance policies and rot in hell!
You've earned 50 bonus credits for reporting your neighbor's hateful misconduct. This content exceeds your current social credit tier. May we suggest citizen responsibility? Sarah open the door. You have been identified by the authorities. Don't resist. Don't resist. Don't resist.
Lana, znaš što treba napraviti? Jednu ovakvu plesku.
Ga pustim.
Ne trebaš ti ništa. Da Lana ode po povod za ulare za njih dvoja. Kužiš.
Bit of animal welfare going on there on the farm, folks, and escaped sheep. I wish I'd filmed the entire capture, but my conscience got the better of me in the middle of filming. I thought maybe I should actually go and help. So I switched the camera off, and then I realised I didn't need my help and forgot to switch the camera back on. But anyway, that opening, folks, this is something that is looming right on the horizon now, something that's being brought in all of our countries. And this is what I said when all this Charlie Kirk stuff happened. I said, what's going to happen beneath the surface while all this discussion about Charlie Kirk's going on? And the Charlie Kirk stuff, it's just been insane. There's been so much information come out about it. I was thinking this would be the last time I talk about Charlie Kirk, because so much information came out, like so much dirt came out about Erica Kirk, all her ties, like father works for Raytheon Israeli division. She was in film clips and like just so much stuff. She's on reality TV shows, her ties to Trump, her ties to likely Epstein, her ties to the Romanian child trafficking network. I mean, so much stuff.
Erica Kirk has deep connections to Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and the State of Israel. The supposed grieving wife and mother is going to be taking over Turning Point USA. So here's some facts about her that I think the public has a right to know and that nobody else is reporting on. Around 2009 to 2010, even though Erica had never modeled before or participated in a beauty pageant, she received an invitation in the mail to participate in the Miss USA beauty pageants, which were owned by Donald Trump. In 2012, she won the Miss Arizona competition. And at the same time, according to her website, she was also a casting director at the same time she was modeling for Trump. In 2006, she started a ministry when she was just 17 years old. This ministry was working with the U.S. military in Romania at the same time she claimed to be working as a casting director. The area in Romania where Erica was operating her ministry out of had a ton of locals accusing these evangelical ministries of kidnapping children and trafficking them out of the country. These children were being found in Israel, the UK, and undisclosed private islands. The locals demanded that the authorities look into this, and shocker, they never did, but her ministry was kicked out of Romania. In 2018, 2 years after Donald Trump started working with Charlie Kirk, Erica and Charlie were introduced to one another after one of their mutual friends suggested that Charlie should hire her to work for Turning Point. So at Erica's job interview with Charlie, Erica allegedly said, "You're not going to be my boss. You're going to be my boyfriend." So they began dating. I think it's safe to assume that this mutual friend was Donald Trump, because Erica was already one of his employees, so it would make sense for his team to encourage this. Beauty pageants are a well-known gateway for human trafficking. So with her being a casting director, her ministry working with the military in Romania and being asked to leave, along with her very strange behavior of capitalizing on the death of her husband, I think this should be of immense concern to us all. Random people do not get propped up by the mainstream media out of nowhere. That includes Charlie Kirk, whose father had deep connections to Donald Trump even before he started working with Charlie Kirk.
And then Charlie Kirk's dad working for Donald Trump. I mean, there's just so much stuff that's come out about this. But fortunately, I don't have to talk about it because there's a couple of videos actually that Jeff Berwick put out, Dollar Vigilante, One of them is called, I think, the Charlie Kirk Psyop, and the other one is called the Charlie Kirk Psyop Goes Deep, or something like that. There's two of them that he put out in the last week that are both incredible. They're great. Two of the best videos I've seen him do. And he got all of the information, like all of it, like all the different camera angles, all the different theories of where the bullet came from, whether he died, whether he didn't die. And the whole thing's just like ridiculous. It's been such a setup right from the start. And there's been like no official autopsy, well, no autopsy at all, no official coroner's report, no funeral, no investigation. They've gone in and concreted over the spot where he was shot. Like, they've totally revamped the entire freaking area. It's just insane. Just covered the crime scene up, like within 2 weeks they've covered the crime scene up. And none of the official story makes sense at all. It's obviously a charade. You've got Erica Kirk there now in control of the corporation. And, you know, she goes out on stage with fireworks and all that sort of crap. And, it's ridiculous. But like I said, I don't have to talk about that because the whole thing's been a setup. Supposed to happen, absolutely. And I think Charlie Kirk likely is dead, but it doesn't matter either way. That's the thing. Maybe he's gone off to Valhalla like Cash Patel said he was.
To my friend Charlie Kirk. Rest now, brother. We have the watch. And I'll see you in Valhalla.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him.
Forgive Tyler, for we know it was him, and there's nothing more to see here.
Yeah, perhaps that's what's happened, folks. He's gone to Valhalla. Perhaps Valhalla is some secret place that we don't know about, not particularly the mythological Nordic heaven. Who knows? But it's been insane, folks. Like, with all that stuff with Charlie Kirk, and so many distractions, so many little things happening, and so many big things happening, like just massive from every direction. Alex Jones even showing up with a Hitler moustache. Perhaps he's gone off to Valhalla with Charlie Kirk.
Holy shit, H. Jones, get the fuck out of here.
We need to go now. The deep state is scraping our signals. They're eating the babies. No time to explain.
Go where? It's 4 a.m. Nigga, what the fuck?
Antarctica.
Nobody else, so we can be free. Nobody else, so we can be free. All the things you said, all the things you said, running through my head, running through my head, running through my head. All the things you said, all the things you said, running through my head, running.
What is this place?
Home.
I'll see you in Valhalla.
Yeah, you never know these days, folks. But so much stuff. There was the synagogue shooting in Manchester. Shooting or stabbing or something like that. One person was killed. Another person was killed, shot by the police. And the guy that they blamed for it was also, of course, killed. And his name is Jihad al-Shami. Like, shame the jihadists, you know. Jihad al-Shami, all shame the jihad. Like, you can't make this shit up, folks. It's insane. And who would benefit from that synagogue attack? I mean, it could have been just some random guy who did it because he was pissed off with what Israel is doing in Gaza. It could have just been some random kind of lunatic. This guy had a pretty good analysis of it.
On the Manchester synagogue attack. 2 people were reportedly murdered while attending a Manchester synagogue in what the British government has labeled a terrorist incident. 4 others were seriously injured. Police say they shot and killed the suspect, a British citizen of Syrian descent. After the attack, an Arab-Israeli Hasbarist named Jonathan Elkori jumped on Twitter to tell me that, quote, when you dehumanize Israelis and Jews to this level, you end up with a terrorist attack in a synagogue in the UK, adding, you're as complicit as the terrorists attack, you sick psycho. Whenever Western Jews get hurt these days, you always see the Israel supporters having a big parade where they go, okay, that's it, wrap it up. Nobody gets to criticize Israel's behavior anymore because you're causing terrorism. And then everyone ignores them and goes back to protesting the genocide because that's ridiculous. I don't know whether the Manchester attack had anything to do with Gaza. It could have just been some guy having a mental health crisis. Could have been something else. But the fact that so many Israel apologists are jumping out of the woodwork to say this means everyone needs to stop defending Palestine is very revealing in and of itself. Some thoughts. Murder is wrong. Israel should stop committing it. Anti-Semitism is wrong. Israel should stop fomenting it by massacring children under the banner of the Star of David while claiming to represent all Jews. Terrorism is wrong. Israel should stop perpetrating it by deliberately targeting civilians with mass-scale violence for the purpose of advancing a political objective. Attacking places of worship is wrong. Israel should stop bombing mosques and churches. I wish the Manchester synagogue attack had never happened. I also feel weird even talking about it while dozens of Palestinians are killed today whose individual names I'll never know and whose individual deaths I'll never see decried in Western media headlines. Their lives didn't matter any less than the 2 people who were murdered in the synagogue attack. They're just not white Westerners, so their lives aren't treated as significant. Their violent deaths aren't seen as horrific. Their murderers aren't denounced as monsters. I'm seeing Israel supporters claiming that this attack means everyone needs to stop protesting against the ongoing genocide in Gaza, just like they claimed after 2 Israeli embassy staffers were killed in Washington back in May. Their demands will be ignored just like last time because they are stupid, even if a double homicide is directly motivated by opposition to Israel's extermination campaign in Gaza. That is not a valid reason to stop opposing an active genocide. This shouldn't even need to be said. Last I heard, it is unknown whether the synagogue attacker was motivated by Israel's actions in Gaza, but if he was, I'd say that's one more reason to oppose Israel's actions in Gaza. If you are too racist or apathetic to oppose a genocide on principle, then you should oppose it because it is fomenting violent extremism which could end up hurting people who look like you and live where you live. Back in December 2023, I wrote, quote, actually, what fuels anti-Semitism is murdering children by the thousands under the banner of the Star of David while adamantly insisting that your actions are inseparable from all Jews and the totality of Judaism. In April of this year, I said that if you believe that all the violence and destruction in Gaza is the fault of Hamas, then by your own logic, you must also accept that the coming wave of anti-Semitism and violent extremism which is going to ensue from the incineration of Gaza will exclusively be the fault of Israel. I note this because if it turns out that this was yet another instance of someone flipping out about Israel's criminality in Gaza and attacking Jewish civilians in a misguided attempt at retaliation, it's worth pointing out that it was entirely foreseeable and preventable.
Interesting way of looking at things. Or it could have just been the Jews doing it to themselves. Again, because that's who benefits from this. And they do this sort of stuff all the time, folks. I've showed you so many little video clips and so many newspaper headlines and things of when Jews have staged attacks upon themselves. And, I mean, they've done this over and over again. It's what they did in Iraq. So they want all the people to come to Israel. They want all the Jews around the world to feel scared in their own community. This is what the Zionists want. And have them all migrate to Israel because they need lots of immigration into Israel in order to populate all the land that they're planning to steal from Palestine. And they did this in the 1950s 1950s with Iraq, and they blew up their own people in order to drive them out of the country and drive them into Israel because they needed the population.
Before the emergence of the State of Israel in 1948, there was a large number of Jews living in the Arab world, something like 800,000. And there were Jews in Lebanon, in Syria, in Egypt, and Iraq. The Jewish community in Iraq was the most ancient, going back to 2.5 millennia ago. It was the most prosperous, the most successful, and the best integrated into local society. But before 48, there were Jews throughout the Arab world, and Muslim-Jewish coexistence was not a distant dream. It was the everyday reality. The Jews and Arabs lived side by side until the arrival of Zionism. My family and I, we were Arab Jews. We spoke Arabic at home. We didn't speak any other language. Our culture was Arab culture. Our food was the most delicious, spicy Middle Eastern food. It wasn't European food. So in every sense of the word, we were Arab Jews. We Arab Jews had much more in common, linguistically and culturally, with non-Jews around us. We had much more in common with them than we had with Jews in Eastern Europe. In March 1950, the Iraqi parliament passed a law which said any Jew who wants to leave the country is free to do so. They have a year to register to leave on a one-way visa. And not many Jews registered to leave. And in the next year, 5 bombs exploded in Jewish premises in Baghdad, and that created a panic, and that helped to precipitate the exodus to Israel. Yosef Basri, 28-year-old lawyer and an ardent Zionist, and he was responsible for 3 out of the 5 bombs. The controller of Basri was an Israeli intelligence officer called Max Binet. He gave him the orders, he gave him the TNT. In 1950, there were 135,000 Jews in Iraq. By the end of 1952, there were only about 10,000 Jews left in Iraq, and 125,000 Jews ended up in Israel. We left Iraq as Jews, and we arrived in Israel as Iraqis. But the problem is that Israel claims to be the state of the Jews. Israel claims to speak on behalf of all Jews everywhere. Zionism is an Ashkenazi thing. It's nothing to do with us.
Yes, they've got a history of doing this sort of thing, folks. And there's been massive developments in the Middle East as well. I mean, they've just been bombing the living shit out of Gaza. Of course, the flotilla got stopped and all the people got arrested. Now they're saying they're going to actually keep them in one of the worst jails in Israel, in the Negev. Now, Ben Gvir wants to do this because he says they're all terrorists and they're all supporting terrorism, and they need to be given a taste of what it's like to be treated as a terrorist. So they reckon they're going to hold them for a couple of months in the jail.
אלה הטרוריסטים של המשט, אלה הטרוריסטים, די טרוריסט. תקל עליהם, תומכי רוצחים, אגב, האוניות שלהם נמצאו קרחנה שלמה. הם לא באו באמת, לא למשט, לא לעזור, אלא הם באו בעד עזה, בעד הטרוריסטים. אלה טרוריסטים. החלטת ראש הממשלה לאפשר לתומכי הטרור שבמשט לחזור לארצותיהם בטעות יסודה. אני חושב שחייבים להשאיר אותם כמה חודשים כאן, בכלא הישראלי, כדי שהם יעריכו את הריח של האגף המחבלים. הרי לא יכול להיות מצב שבו ראש הממשלה שולח אותם עוד פעם ועוד פעם ועוד פעם לארצותיהם, והשליחה הזאת גורמת לכך שהם יחזרו לכאן שוב ושוב ושוב.
השר, איפה אנחנו נמצאים?
אנחנו נמצאים בכלא קציעות, וכמו שהבטחתי, אותם אנשי משט, תומכי טרור, נמצאים כאן בכלא ביטחוני, תראו המשחקים. הם מקבלים כאן תנאים של מחבלים לכל דבר, טרנינגים של מחבלים, תנאים של מחבלים, זאת אומרת, יש מינימום של המינימום, ככה הבטחתי וככה אנחנו מקיימים.
עכשיו בואו ניכנס, נראה אותם.
There's a few countries saying that they're going to be negotiating release and sending people to have their citizens released within the next few days, or by, next week. And so that's one thing. I mean, whether all the countries are going to do that, it's another question. But and this is Ben Gvir saying this. And Ben Gvir himself was actually convicted of terrorism years ago, and now he's serving in the Knesset. Ben Gvir is even more extreme than Benjamin Netanyahu, if that's possible. And there's been a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East with Gaza. Trump's plan. this is interesting how this all happened as well. There were 57 Muslim countries that had put forth a peace plan to the UN, and the US had pretty much agreed to it, said they were going to agree to it, and it outlined a complete withdrawal of all hostilities towards Israel. 57 Muslim countries agreed to this and said that they would guarantee security for Israel. All they had to do is remove themselves from the occupied territories and follow a path towards Palestinian statehood.
The Israeli Prime Minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab committee mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries. And I can tell you here, very unequivocally, all of us are willing to, right now, guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. Can you ask the Israeli officials what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars, ask any Israeli official what is their plan for peace. You'll get nothing because they're only thinking of the first step. We're going to go destroy Gaza, inflame the West Bank, destroy Lebanon.
And it was a pretty good peace plan, and it granted autonomy to the Palestinian people. So, and as I said, the US had all but agreed to this. And then, of course, Trump comes in and undermines the whole thing with his peace plan, which is essentially total capitulation. Hamas has to withdraw completely. We'll give you a safe passage out of the country, but you've got to withdraw completely, and we're going to basically hand it all over to indefinite Israeli occupation. This is Trump's peace plan, his ceasefire plan.
This new deal on Gaza is full of Israeli confessions. Firstly, it says they're going to release over 1,000 Palestinians held by Israel, held hostage, including women and children. Wait, why are they holding women and children? 2, it says if this deal goes through, they will immediately allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. But Israel has been saying that they're allowing food, water, and medicine in the whole time. And 3, the craziest part, this plan will be administered by Tony Blair, the butcher of Iraq. For those of you that are too young to remember, he was the Prime Minister of the UK who went into Iraq with George W. Bush. Hundreds of thousands of civilians were killed. Tony Blair's a war criminal, and now they've got him on this peace plan. What the fuck? This is not a peace plan. It is full of colonial clauses designed to continue the occupation and subjection of the Palestinian people.
And it got to the point where he said, well, you know, you've got to agree to this, otherwise I'm just going to let Benjamin Netanyahu come in and annihilate the entire place and turn it all to rubble and kill all of you. And that's Trump's peace plan. But again, this was done like in a rush to undermine the plan that the Arabs had put forth. But it looks like there's going to be some sort of a ceasefire in Gaza for the moment anyway. But even since this is agreed, the level of bombing and just random machine gun fire has intensified. There was one guy actually just sitting in a tent, just recorded the noise outside of bombs and machine gun fire. And this is the sort of stuff they go through every day. So that's happened since they've agreed to a ceasefire. This is what Israel does. So they're getting in as many deaths as they possibly can before the world notices. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the flotilla and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you knew this was going to happen. Personally, I mean, it's great as a show of international solidarity to have something like one of these flotillas. But you know what's going to happen. You're going to get arrested in international waters. You're going to be reprimanded. And Israel doesn't give a shit about international law. It doesn't give a shit about human rights. It doesn't care. And it's going to make an example out of you. And ultimately, it's going to achieve nothing, because in a week from now, I mean, things are moving so quickly. In a week from now, people won't be talking about the flotilla. They'll be talking about the fact that Trump organised a ceasefire and all this sort of crap. You know, because people have got the frickin' attention span of a goldfish. And all of this stuff has been going on, like so many distractions. The synagogue shooting, you know, what's going on in Gaza, the flotilla, all of this sort of stuff, so many things, Charlie Kirk, all of this stuff, get people distracted, get them busy while this whole digital slavery system is being rolled out. This is stuff that I've been warning people about, like for the last 20 or 15 years, like since 2010, when I put up my film Transformation and said, this is where we're going. I mean, absolutely screaming the alarm about social crediting and all of this sort of stuff since 2016. And here it all is. The stuff there at the start where they're actually bringing in all this stuff in Australia, for convenience, of course. And that's all going ahead, folks, if people accept it. They've done it in Thailand, and they're talking about doing it in the EU as well. I mean, there was recently a meeting in the UN, I think, where Anthony Albanese, the punchy little Prime Minister of Australia, went over there and made a speech and started talking about all the stuff that he's doing with all of this online identification, all this sort of stuff, to protect the children, of course. And the EU said that they need to step up the pace, and they want to do this as well. And now with all of this digital ID and all these terror attacks and all this anti-Semitism and all the stuff that's happening, which is all designed to keep you distracted and all to create the reason for them to do this, just to protect people, because things are getting so out of control. It's all hate platforms now. All the social media platforms are all hate platforms. They're all spreading hatred, and so we need to do something about it. That's the plan. You know, and they're the ones that get in there and spread all the hatred. They've got bot farms doing this, folks, and some of these bot farms are huge. Very fun guy. Yeah, and that's not all. Some of them are actually like more large and more complicated, with sometimes hundreds and thousands of bots being run out of one facility. This is the sort of stuff that we're dealing with, and this is how the propaganda gets spread. But all of this stuff is happening right now, all the stuff we've been warning people about, all this digital ID. I was saying to my friends here in Croatia that I honestly don't know whether I'm even going to be able to come back to Europe next year because of all of this digital stuff that they're bringing in. They want to fingerprint you and all sorts of things, biometrics and fingerprints in order to enter Europe. And it's all coming along with this whole digital ID and cashless society. And now a lot of people are starting to ring the alarm bells about it. One of them is actually Dr. Sherry Tenpenny has this to say.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend. called the Pact of the Future document. It's 2 parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact. And if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed. Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure, fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation and memory hold. Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared. Have water, food, digital access, flashlights, a way to communicate with family and friends. Now is really the time to get involved and get prepared, because this is what's coming. Our Congress is sitting on its hands. There was a press conference on the 17th about this, and no further action has been taken. So it's up to us to mobilize and to go forward, particularly with your local sheriffs, to get your constitutional sheriffs to say, this isn't going to be allowed in my county. Thank you very much. Take action. We've been talking about the onset of one world order, one world government, one world religion, one world money for a long time. Well, it's no longer coming. It's here.
Yeah, and it's great to see people like that actually speaking out about this. And what's going on in the United States? I mean, they're doing it all in the United States as well. Trump is rolling this out at breakneck speed. It's insane how much the people of the United States are being fooled by Trump. Even with this whole Middle Eastern peace deal, you know, Trump's going to try to paint himself now as the man who actually stopped the war in the Middle East, how this is unprecedented, and, you know, he's just the best thing that's ever happened since sliced bread, because all the presidents have been wanting to do this forever, and Trump is the one who pulled it off.
Thank the countries that helped me put this together: Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others. So many people fought so hard. This is a big day. We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down and concrete. Very importantly, I look forward to having the hostages come home to their parents, and having some of the hostages, unfortunately, you know the condition they're in, come home likewise to their parents, because their parents wanted them just as much as though that young man or young woman were alive. So I just want to let you know that this is a very special day, maybe unprecedented in many ways. It is unprecedented, but thank you all, and thank you all to those great countries that helped. We were given a tremendous amount of help. Everybody was unified in wanting this war to end and seeing peace in the Middle East, and we're very close to achieving that. Thank you all, and everybody will be treated fairly.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is just pure ego. He really is. And you can tell how this is going to be played. Another cause to give him the Nobel Peace Prize, hey? So, while this is happening, all these other distractions are going on as well. Like while all this smart grid is going out, there's that going on with the whole peace process in the Middle East. And now there's the shutdown of the government. So the government's being shut down because of the Democrats won't give the Republicans the money that they need, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's such a joke. When you understand how the money system works, this is absolutely such a joke. But this is what they're saying.
Well, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, and it's because the Democrats have put us into this position. If the Democrats did not vote to shut down the government, we would not be standing up here talking about layoffs today. We'd be talking about all the other news stories going on in the world in our country. We'd be talking about all of the great things that this administration is doing to uplift Americans across the country. But unfortunately, the Vice President of the United States and I have to come out here today to talk about a government shutdown that the Democrats put us in this position. And a second question, Joey.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm just trying to clarify the timing of these potential layoffs to federal workers. You said imminent. The Vice President seemed to say in a couple of days. It looks like Russ Vought maybe said in 2 days. When would these layoffs begin?
2 days, imminent, very soon. You will expect more announcements right now.
Is it just not unclear, or are you waiting?
No, it's not unclear. All of those things are very synonymous with one another. These rifts are unfortunately going to happen very soon.
Yeah, and you see there, she was saying that there's going to have to be government layoffs because they don't have the funds to keep certain departments open. We saw recently when Doge came along, all Doge did was come in and basically steal the database and close a whole bunch of departments and replace it with AI and take all of that data that it had collected to run it off on their algorithms and into their AI and do what they do. There weren't any arrests. I mean, if all this money was being misappropriated and Doge had to come in and clean it up and shut all these departments down because they were just money laundering and filtering money off for their own needs, then why were there no arrests? Why did none of this happen? Because it wasn't about that. It was about transferring control of everything over to AI. And now with this whole shutdown, now they're saying they're going to have all sorts of layoffs. Now they're transferring more of it over into AI. And Trump is really, really moving really quickly to bring in this whole control. It's tied in with the migrant issue. It's why they've let so many migrants come into the United States. And they pretend that they're protecting the country from migrants and from drug hauls and stuff. They blew up another ship coming from Venezuela the other day, another boat, just a speedboat. Yeah, this is just a speedboat. This has got probably, it can go 200 miles on the tank of fuel that it's got, and it's like 2,500 miles from the United States. How's it delivering drugs to the United States? And again, they just blow it out of the water and say, well, we did it, and it was carrying drugs, but there's no drugs to show us. There's none of this sort of shit. They're just doing it because, it makes people believe that they're actually protecting the United States shores and stopping the drug trade, but they're the ones running the drug trade. And it's also creating the need to make things more strict and make things more tight. All these shootings, all these killings, all the stuff that's going on in the United States, this is all being done to bring in this digital ID, the real ID that he's been talking about, and to bring in this whole cashless control grid. Even the whole talk of transferring the national debt into stable coins, into cryptocurrency. All this sort of stuff is about bringing in the smart grid. And this is what I've been saying for so many years. And now you've also got people, like I saw an interview with Catherine Austin Fitz the other day. And she is now saying the same thing. Have a listen to this.
I have to judge people by what they're doing, and what it looks to me like Trump and Musk are implementing the control grid at high speed. And don't believe me, go look at that list, because what you have to say is, okay, to do a control grid, we need a digital ID implemented that's very high quality, high precise. Check the box. We need an all digital financial system. Check the box. You know, we need a way of doing interoperable money. Check the box. If you look at what Doge is doing, we need a social credit system. Check the box.
Wait, what do you mean by that? What Doge is doing?
Doge is, from what it looks like to me, and I'm basing my assessment of what I know from Doge includes, you know, I read the Financial Times, I need to read the Wall Street Journal, and I need to read Wired. Wired has done a very thorough job of trying to document what's happening in the systems. And I think basically what they've done is they've taken, so if I wanted to stop fraud in the U.S. government, I would say there's 20 trillion missing from DOD, there's $1 trillion missing from HUD. I'm going to go in, figure out where it went, get it back.
Right.
That's not what they did. If you said to me, I want to build a social credit system that can be used to enforce control against the American people and basically lock them down with both enforcement and social credit, I would go get the Social Security data, the IRS data, and the Treasury payment data. And that's exactly what they did. And I would privatize it. I would just take it and put it in private AI with XAI and Palantir AI. And if Palantir still has the contracts with Treasury and the IRS to enforce, you got everybody. And you had the Kennedy's aggregating the healthcare data. You put it with the healthcare data. Now Danny, they've been aggregating this kind of data. I used to call it the data beast. So they've been aggregating this kind of powerful data since the 90s. So I don't think this is all new. So, for example, you
IRS data, healthcare data, and combining it all together into one system combined with AI.
Right.
Same thing that I've been saying for such a long time. And this is what Trump's doing. And he has been selected to do this, folks. Trump is not your friend. None of these politicians are your friends, folks. These are all very evil people. And this whole scenario has been just so long planned. And now they're bringing it into effect. Yeah, and all of it, there's so many things being played here, so many different agendas being completed at the same time, being brought into view at the same time. You know, the smart grid, the control system, the digital currency, biometrics, the whole situation in the Middle East, which is designed to make people hate Israel, so that, I mean, this is why they've live streamed the genocide while claiming it's not a genocide. I mean, everything they've done to make you hate them. They want you to hate them because they want Jews in their country to feel threatened and perhaps even die because of terror attacks. And if people don't start attacking them, well, the Jews will stage an attack themselves. So it looks that way because they've done this so many times. Blew up their own housing complex in England years ago. Like so many times, folks. They've stabbed themselves, they've shot themselves. A woman that we saw in the hijab walking around screaming out Heil Hitler and giving Nazi salutes after October the 7th, got arrested and turned out to be Jewish. This is what they do, folks. You know, all of this stuff is coming to a head now and people are seeing it, so they need to get this smart grid out really quickly. Like I said, they're bringing this system in Thailand. In fact, they already brought this system in Thailand, and they put everybody into a digital currency, and they've got it all sorted out with a real ID sort of thing, so that everything was under one thing. And once you've got everything under one roof and you've got all your ID together in one place, it means you can be switched off at the touch of a button. So they brought this system in Thailand, and suddenly, like simultaneously, over 3 million people had their bank accounts shut down. Thailand has become a case study for the use of biometric data in every facet of life. Every banking transaction is monitored and scrutinised. Any perceived discrepancy is flagged as fraud and punished without due process. Regulations have overwhelmed the system, resulting in a full-fledged banking crisis. Over 3 million Thai bank accounts were frozen instantaneously without warning as a result of government overreach. Transaction denied. You contact your bank to see why the payment failed, only to learn that your account has been frozen. All of your accounts, for that matter. The bank is investigating you for suspicious activity and potential money laundering or fraud. There was no warning, call or letter, and there is no clarification as to what transaction was flagged. You're completely locked out of your accounts, you have lost the ability to purchase, you cannot fill your gas tank, you cannot purchase groceries, you've been completely removed from the financial system, and you do not know when or if you will regain access to your funds. This is the reality for millions of people banking in Thailand. And that's crazy stuff, folks, and this freaked the entire country out. But the article goes on to say, thousands of accounts are frozen each week. Panic has ensued. Retailers are no longer accepting cards, demanding payment in cash, as they too are worried that they will be removed from the banking system. Confidence in the government and the entire banking system evaporated. People rationally fear that their account will be targeted next without warning. Government overreach has backfired, and the people are removing themselves from the banking system entirely. And that's a really good thing to see, folks. Yeah, so it backfired. And it caused the people in Thailand to see how much they need to keep cash alive and depend on cash. And they're saying it serves as a test case for what this digital ID is going to do. Well, it also serves as a test case for why you shouldn't accept it. And so many of us have been warning about this for so long, folks, and it's imperative that people see this, because this is what's been going on. All everyone's been arguing over whether Charlie Kirk died or whether he didn't, it doesn't matter. What matters is what they're going to do with it. And with this whole synagogue shooting in the UK, I mean, seriously? There's a sheep running up the path. This is the escaped sheep. It's gotten away again. Interesting. Okay. We'll have to let them know where that is, folks. But, where was I? The synagogue shooting in Manchester. I mean, seriously, Jihad al-Shami. This is just fucking crazy, folks. You can't make this sort of stuff up. It's bizarre seeing that sheep running past, folks. But yeah, they're really pushing it in the United States. Now people are actually having their visas revoked if they criticise the Charlie Kirk shooting. And what's that going to be about? Like, you know, if they celebrate the Charlie Kirk shooting, sorry, not criticise, but if they're one of these people who say, oh, I think he was too far right wing and he was speaking out about gays and he deserved to be shot, if you say that, then you'll have your visa revoked if you're a visitor, and they'll throw you out of the country. Need to get rid of the First Amendment, you see. They're talking about this, you know, the First Amendment is what's caused all of this hate speech online, and we need to get everybody digitized so we have the means to just shut them down if they don't say what we believe to be politically correct and socially acceptable, and that probably doesn't include questioning the official narrative on any story, because of course the government is only ever going to tell you the truth, folks. Of course they are. So, you know, you can see where all this is going, folks. It's just crazy. Visas revoked, you know. And this whole government shutdown is just a complete scam, as is Trump's peace plan in the Middle East. The government shutdown, again, it's to make people believe that, you know, you need a more majority rule party. You need to really have a dictatorship to stop this sort of stuff happening. And that, you know, we need to get rid of a lot of government departments and kind of digitize everything. And Trump's peace plan in the Middle East, like I said, this just gives permanent control to Israel. In fact, there were negotiations as soon as Trump announced his peace plan. He set certain borders where the Israeli troops were supposed to withdraw to, and that was the original plan, and that was the first withdrawal point. You had to actually go to that line. And after 7 hours of negotiations with Bibi, they moved that line. They moved it to 3 different withdrawal points. That one being the third, I think. And basically arranged so that they would end up with complete control of Gaza, and they wouldn't have to withdraw IDF troops until they feel safe, which of course will be never, because Israel is the eternal victim and it will never feel safe.
ראש הממשלה, איך אתה מסכם את הביקור?
זה היה ביקור מצוין. גם ההתחלה באום וגם הסיום בוושינגטון. זה הביקור הרביעי שלי בוושינגטון מאז שהנשיא טראמפ נבחר. זה ביקור היסטורי. במקום שהחמאס יבודד אותנו, הפכנו את היוצרות ובודדנו את החמאס. עכשיו כל העולם, גם העולם הערבי והמוסלמי, לוחץ על החמאס לקבל את התנאים שהצבנו יחד עם הנשיא טראמפ, לשרת כל חטופינו, החיים והחללים כאחד, כשצה"ל נשאר ברוב הרצועה. מי היה מאמין לזה? הרי כל הזמן אומרים, אתה חייב לקבל את התנאים של החמאס, להוציא את כולם, צה"ל צריך לצאת החוצה, והחמאס יכול להשתקם, ויכול גם לשקם את הרצועה. לא ולא, זה לא קורה. ההפך, והנשיא טראמפ הוסיף שאם החמאס יסרב, הוא ייתן כל הגיבוי לישראל להשלים את הפעולה הצבאית לחיסולו. ולכן אני חושב שמכל צעד זה היה ביקור מצוין.
ראש הממשלה, יש שאלה שנשאלת, האם הסכמתם למדינה פלסטינית?
ממש לא. זה גם לא כתוב בהסכם. אבל דבר אחד כן אמרנו, שאנחנו נתנגד בתוקף למדינה פלסטינית. הנשיא טראמפ גם אמר את זה, הוא אמר שהוא מבין את זה, הוא אמר באום גם שזה יהווה פרס עצום לטרור וסכנה למדינת ישראל, וכמובן שאנחנו לא מסכימים.
תודה רבה, ראש הממשלה.
So, yeah, that's the sort of stuff that's going on, folks. I think I can hear my friends down here. They might be looking for that sheep. So I'm just going to switch this off and go and see if they are, and I'll be right back. Look at that, folks.
What a kid, that quick bastard. Fuck.
Yeah.
She's quick. She's so...
Another one. How are you, brother? I've just got a camera in my hand. How are you, man? Another one went running up this path here.
This path?
Like 5 minutes ago. On the outside of the fig orchard. So they all got out, did they?
The other one, yeah. This is the one that we caught.
That's the one that you caught.
Yeah, there. On the road. But we tried to catch the other one. She's fucking quick. She's quick.
Yeah, well it ran all the way up there. It was bolting too.
There?
Yeah. Well, yeah, sorry about that, folks. That sheep's probably gone forever. They run off into the scrub in through here. So, yeah, unless they've got some trackers in there. I think he said they might have a digital tag on one of those sheep. Interesting how that works, isn't it? We're talking about all this sort of stuff in here. I think they might even have one in the sheep, but unfortunately the father, the husband, is away. He left yesterday to go and do a tour. He's a tour guide. And I think he's the one with the digital tracker on his phone. It wouldn't surprise me anyway. I could be wrong. I don't really know. But I'd say unless they've got some sort of a tag on that sheep, they're not going to be finding it again in that scrub unless it comes back to its home. Maybe smells the other sheep. But anyway, like getting back to things, it's been crazy, folks. Like, and all of this distraction, and the digital ID is rolling out in absolute full force. Every single aspect of it, all at once, while people are distracted by everything. distracted by even the war in Gaza. I mean, the war in Gaza is tragic. It's a genocide. It needs to have massive attention paid to it, as I've been doing for the last 2 years. But I've also been talking about the digital ID and talking about the smart grid and talking about 5G and all of this sort of stuff. And now that has really come to the forefront. So you can see why there is so much theatrics going on in the world now. And Trump's the perfect person to play this role. That's why they got him in. People have been just so played by Trump. It's just remarkable. There are still some who can't see it. This mountain range, folks, absolutely incredible. But you know, Trump's support for Israel should show you what the true nature of this man is. And you know, true Christians have no reason to support the state of Israel. The state of Israel basically wants to destroy Amalek, and it openly admits that that is Western society.
A command to wipe out from among all the descendants of Esav, descendants of Amalek, male and female, young and old. And that is why Amalek is so terrible, and it has to be totally uprooted. Therefore, God tells us we should erase their memory, and we should eradicate them from the face of the earth. Who is Amalek? Amalek comes from Esav.
Esav, who in modern day terms is really basically, certainly one of them is America. Esav became Edom, which is a nation. Edom became Rome. Instead of it being Rome, it became Christianity. Christianity, of course, ultimately became Western civilization. So Esav today is really Western civilization.
But the new Rome, the United States,
Esav is Europe, the United States.
The throne of God is incomplete until we destroy Amalek.
I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the Prime Minister of Israel, His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu.
Asking what's going to be with the Goyim when Mashiach comes. Will they be destroyed and annihilated? Who cares? Someone asked, who cares? Okay. As a nation, they'll cease to exist, even as individuals. Every individual, no survivors. Not only as a nation, they'll cease to exist, even as individuals. As Goyim, they're gone. Their personality, as they exist bifnei atzmam, as they would exist independently of Klal Yisrael, they don't exist. They're done. In modern terminology, they call it cultural genocide.
כתוב, אתם קרויים בהמות, כתוב, אתם קרויים מועדון ואינם קרויים מועדון. זהו, אבל לא הם בהמות.
עכשיו, הגויים מה שאין, כן? אלוקים עשה אותם בשביל שיעשו פה...
בשביל לשרת את היהודים. כל הגויים שאתה רואה שיש בעולם, המיליארדים האלה, הם הכל רק בשביל שהיהודים יהיה להם איזה תועלת.
עכשיו,
אנחנו לא רואים את זה, אנחנו לא יודעים בדיוק.
שנייה, כן, היות ואנחנו בגלות, אז אוטומטי עדיין הם עוד לא משרתים אותנו לגמרי, רק חלקית.
כל אחד יהיה לו, כשמשיח יבוא, אז כל אחד יהיה לו אלפים עבדים, 2,800
בינתיים, המשיח לא כאן, אז איך הם משרתים אותנו?
הם בונים לנו רכבים,
בסדר, לא יודעים.
דירות, בניינים, הם בונים את זה, לנו, משרתים את היהודים.
אבל יש גם יהודים שעושים את זה.
בקושי.
I'll ask in English. Do you believe that the Gentiles, the Goyim, will one day become the slaves of the Jews?
So I believe it's part of the Torah.
אני חושב שיהודי הוא קצת יותר, כאילו ודאי שיהיה לי עדיפות גדולה הרבה יותר לעזור ליהודים מאשר לגויים.
למה?
למה? כי יהודי הוא אח שלי.
טוב, אני לא עוד פעם להביא את המספר המדויק, על כל יהודי אמור להיות 800 או יותר עבדים.
They feel that we are elitist, that we think of ourselves as better than them, which we do. And therefore, they hate us. What can we do? God selected us, you know?
Yeah, so they're doing everything they can to achieve these ends. And they openly admit it. I mean, this is why they're trying to control the narrative so much. They've just recently acquired TikTok as well. And now that's full-blown pro-Jewish.
We're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time.
You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well, okay? And you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. X. Exactly. Very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people and give direction to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our Jewish our friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong counterpart? Yes.
And look what just happened with Charlie Kirk. I mean, this guy was waking up and saying what they didn't want him to say, so they killed him, and now they've replaced his entire organization with Zionists. And there's absolutely no doubt that this woman, Erica Kirk, was a plant, was a setup, was a Mossad agent or whatever. I mean, her ties to Israel are profound. She even went to Israel on a pilgrimage. I mean, there's so much shit. It's just so much shit on this woman. The dirt is just piled so high on her. And like I said, no real funeral, no coroner's report, concrete over the crime scene, just take over the company with a fireworks display. It's just remarkable how they managed to get away with it, folks. And you know, these people, it's just one big game to them. I mean, Jews do not worship the same God that other people do.
The greatest lie humanity tells itself is that we have outgrown human sacrifice. We call it by different names now and make our offering to different gods. We offer young men we call soldiers, as if the designation means that their mothers cry less when they die. We call masses of humanity collateral damage and turn our eyes away from the pictures of their lifeless bodies as we sip our morning coffee. And the truth is, we don't do it because we are heartless. We do it because we believe that it is necessary for the world to keep running. We do it because we believe that the gods whose favor we so desperately seek, freedom, security, prosperity, flourishing, that they demand blood as the price of their favor. We do it because we cannot see any other choice. And maybe that's why we read the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, on Rosh Hashanah. Because the story of the Akedah isn't about inconceivable obedience. When Abraham prepares to sacrifice Isaac, he is just accepting the same bargain of blood we still accept today. That some need to die for the world to flourish.
Your son has been expelled 109 times? Yes, but it's never been his fault. It's always the schools persecuting him for no reason.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Freddy Krueger of Gaza. The school shooter, heavyweight champion of the world. The man's killed a lot of kids.
My friends, the terrorist state of Israel want Palestinian civilians to die. Every man, woman, and child in Gaza. Israel's soldiers are deliberately targeting civilians. They fire rockets at schools, hospitals, mosques. They even shoot Palestinian women and children when they try to leave the war zone. Israel is deliberately starving the people of Gaza. All of them. We win, they lose. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. I thank President Biden for the bombs and for being, as he says, a proud Zionist. Actually, he says a proud Irish-American Zionist. May God bless the great alliance between Israel and America forever.
USA. How many kids did we kill today?
And that's just the fact of the matter, folks. I mean, even Ted Cruz the other day, all the Israeli supporters, you probably saw Ted Cruz made the most classic Freudian slip in political history just the other day.
Senator Booker also said we should have bipartisan agreement. I think that's a great idea. We should have bipartisan agreement. How about we all come together and say, let's stop murders? How about we all come together and say, let's stop rape? How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles?
And that's the sort of people that you've got governing your country. And that speaks volumes, doesn't it? We've got to stop attacking pedophiles. The poor little pedophiles. We should stop attacking them. Yes, it's fine that you rape and torture and murder and kill and terrorise children. It's just a normal sexual persuasion. LGBTQP. It's just fucking crazy, folks, what the world has become, you know? And like I said, they don't worship the same God that other people worship. These people are evil in every sense of the word. They really are, folks. It's incredible.
Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, just passed a bill. The House of Representatives just passed a bill that gives the soldiers of the IDF, that's the Israeli Defense Force, you now have Israeli Defense Force foreign military receiving United States military benefits.
This is true.
Wow, what he just said, what Joey just said, people here can't even afford health insurance, and now they're giving it to a foreign country, which in my opinion is a fucking enemy. They're the most disgusting, evil country on earth that has attacked the United States multiple times. And you're gonna give them benefits? And you're telling me these deserve to live? These politicians deserve to be alive? Get the fuck out of here. They're all fucking traitors and they deserve to all be fucking hung.
Yeah, in fact, they're so evil that even with Trump's peace plan, the plan includes governing Gaza, the West governing Gaza, and who they're appointing to fulfill that task is Tony Blair, the butcher of Baghdad. Interesting choice of people that you would want to be working out and controlling the autonomy of the Palestinian people. Tony Blair. You can't make this shit up, folks. It's just unbelievable. But there are certain amounts of pushback happening. All this migrant influx and all this sort of stuff, which has all been run by the same people. The Kalugi plan, the plan to flood Europe and destroy European cultures via mass migration, and the birth rate is still absolutely plummeting in white Western nations as well.
It's the end of days. You're going to need the iron of Esav, which represents Edom, which is the West, Europe, and the Americas, to get intermixed with Ishmael, which is basically Arabs and Muslims. How in the world was this ever going to happen if not for this refugee crisis? At the end of days, you're going to have this intermixing between Esav, Edom, which is the West, and the East, which is the Muslims and the Arabs, making this through this influx into the world. And they're going to have children, I don't want to say by the dozens, but they're going to have a far larger birth rate than the indigenous people there, and they're going to sort of conquer by number. And there are many different sources for this. One of them in Yehezkel, chapter 14, and many other sources as far as this is concerned, where it's mentioned very, very vividly what will happen to the Jews and what will happen to Yerushalayim and what will happen to the world at that time, where there will be many, many people killed and so on and so forth. So the idea of having these refugees come into Europe, it's no longer a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It's just simply a fulfillment of what it was meant to be all along. This is the fulfillment of the Chazal and the prophecies. This has to happen, and this is just another sign that we are nearing, the completion of this tikkun of the entire world.
Le Mashiach viendra que quand Edom, l'Europe, la chrétienté sera totalement tombée. Donc je vous pose la question, c'est une bonne nouvelle que l'islam envahisse l'Europe? C'est une excellente nouvelle, ça annonce l'envie de Mashiach. Excellente nouvelle. Vous allez le payer très cher, les Européens. Mais à un point, vous n'avez même pas notion de quoi on parle. Et vous n'aurez pas au fuir. Parce que tout le mal que vous avez fait à Israël, vous le paierez au centuple.
quand l'Italie disparaîtra, quand Edom, c'est pour ça que le QG de la chrétienté qui vient de Esav se trouve là-bas, quand cet endroit-là disparaîtra, et c'est ce que veut faire l'islam, l'islam c'est le balai d'Israël, sachez-le.
And we are saying, yes, we will love our neighbor. Last week, Highest organized a letter signed by over 1,200 rabbis. Can you imagine getting 1,200 rabbis to agree on one thing? But agree they did. And what they agreed was to ask our elected officials not to halt or even to limit the United States Refugee Admissions Program. And it's not just Highest. Jewish organizations of all kinds across the spectrum of Judaism are issuing statements in support of refugees. These have included the Orthodox Union, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, and so many of the Jewish organizations that you heard are co-sponsors of this event this evening.
And they're still bringing in massive amounts of migrants. Huge protests happening in Australia. I think on October 19th, there are people out there marching to stop immigration and to express a loss of confidence. There's actually a petition you can sign as well if you're an Australian citizen. I suggest you do. Not that petitions mean much, but at least it shows the numbers. And there is a petition to put forward a motion of no confidence in the Australian government and have the entire place revamped, shall we say. You know, just dismiss this government. And you've got to withdraw service from them as well. This is something that I've been saying for a long time now. You've got to withdraw service from these politicians. If you own a restaurant, or you own a pizza shop, or a pie shop, or a gas station, or if you're someone who's renovating homes, you're a builder, you're a contractor, you're anything like that, stop agreeing to contracts and providing service to politicians. You know, don't let them come and shop in your supermarket. Don't let them shop in your chemist store. If they need their house renovating, don't do the contract, and tell all the other builders in the area not to do the contract as well. You've got to withdraw service from these people. If you're a secretary, or you're a government worker, you're a delivery person, you're a delivery company, anything, stop giving service to these people, to politicians. If you're a secretary who works for a politician, quit your job and get a job with someone else. And for people who don't quit their jobs, like if a secretary says, no, I'm getting good pay, might be working for a criminal, but I'm getting good pay and I'm not going to quit my job, then refuse service to that secretary as well. Withdraw service from these people, withdraw acknowledgement from these people. So that's been the message the whole time, non-compliance, that's what it is. Non-compliance is you being in your own power, doing the best you can do, and being the best you can be in everything that God gave you. I'm just not putting up with this shit, and it's become so obvious to everybody now. I mean, even what happened on October the 7th, it's become so obvious to people that Israel staged this whole thing. And it didn't begin on October the 7th, it began in 1948 and has continued for 76 years or 77 years, 78 years. It's been going on a long time. In 2006, it will be 78 years that this has been going on. And it didn't begin on October the 7th. I mean, it wasn't like there was a war in 1948 and then there was another one in 1967 and then suddenly on October the 7th, 2023, Hamas decided to attack Israel. This is not how it went at all. Now, Israel has been abusing these people every day, every year, stealing homes, putting in settlements, doing everything they can to shrink West Bank smaller and smaller and smaller, while keeping the people of Gaza Strip under siege since 2005, because they designated any resistance to their occupation as being terrorism.
The Commission concluded that Israel has committed genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, and that it is continuing with that genocide. It is now almost 2 years since Israel launched its military campaign in the Gaza Strip in October 2023. This has been the most ruthless, prolonged, and widespread attack against the Palestinian people since 1948. Every day that passes, the killings and the starvation of the Palestinians continue. The goal of the Israeli government is abundantly clear as we continue to witness the destruction of Palestinians in Gaza. The Commission finds it is genocide. In our report, the Commission found that the Israeli authorities and Israeli security forces committed and are continuing to commit the following underlying acts of genocide against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. 1, killing members of the group. 2, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. 3, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. And 4, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. On the specific intent of genocide, the Commission concludes that statements made by Israeli authorities are direct evidence of genocidal intent. The Commission also concludes that the pattern of conduct is circumstantial evidence for genocidal intent, and that genocidal intent was the only reasonable inference that could be drawn from a totality of the evidence. Therefore, the Commission concludes that the Israeli authorities and Israeli security forces have the genocidal intent to destroy, in whole or in part, the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
You know, and the amount of people that they've killed so many babies between the age of 0 to 1. The list is phenomenal of the amount of children that have been killed. And again, these are only people from age 0 to 1, you know, 2 months old, 3 months old, 6 months old, 8 months old, 10 months old, whatever. Just a list of babies, folks. You know, and apart from that, I mean, the people that they've killed, the Palestinian children and the Palestinian civilians that they killed prior to October the 7th, there's a list that shows the amount of Palestinians who were murdered by Israeli forces in 2022, a year before this alleged incursion happened. And it's a damn long list, folks. And this is just 1 year. The amount of Palestinians murdered by Israel in 1 year, all using American taxpayers' money and American bullets and American guns and with full US support. It's crazy, folks. And this is the sort of stuff that's being normalized. And you look at all this, the government shutdown and all this sort of crap. You know, the digitizing of everything, losing your visas if you criticize. You want to get rid of the First Amendment. They want to get rid of the Second Amendment. They want to have you completely controlled, unable to defend yourself. Any talk of criticism against government, against Israel, against genocide, or any of it is being portrayed as terrorism. Anybody who doesn't do what they're told will be shot and removed from the picture, as is the case with Charlie Kirk. I mean, even if he's dead, I mean, he probably is. But again, it doesn't even really matter. What matters is what they've done. Look what they've done in the last 3 weeks. Well, it's almost a month. 3.5 weeks since this killing, alleged killing, this freaking sideshow, because it was an absolute staged sideshow, a theatrical event. It's incredible just how much information has come to light about it. There's no way this wasn't staged. There's no way this wasn't set up years in advance. And again, even with the whole memorial, I mean, when did they book the stadium to do that? That was a huge stadium. Don't you have to book these things in advance? But anyway, that's another question. Maybe everything just stopped and everyone just went for it because it was dear Charlie Kirk, you know? And, you know, suddenly Charlie Kirk's an android because the bullet didn't even go through his neck. He saved people when he died because there was no exit wound. And this is a 30-06 caliber bullet, which would have blown his neck off if that's really what was used and it all went down the way we're told. So, you know, I mean, it's just, there's so much, folks. There's so much out there that's being used to distract you. But ultimately, now, well, we're at the point now. They're going to bring all this in, because all of this stuff is being used to bring in the smart grid, to make it seem necessary that they have to bring in the smart grid. Can't have all these right-wing extremists everywhere. Can't have left-wing extremists everywhere. The whole society's got to be kind of mid-range, like they're all on Prozac, you know. Most of them freaking are anyway. You know, it's incredible, folks. But this is everything we've been warning about, and if people accept this, if people accept this digital ID and this digital cash, then it's game over. Even in Australia, they're saying, well, it's voluntary. It's voluntary, you don't have to accept it. Of course, if you don't accept it, you won't be able to renew your license, your registration on your car. You won't be able to go and do shopping anywhere. You won't be able to do anything. You won't be able to use any government departments at all, which I think is good. I mean, I don't use government departments. But again, you know, because I want to have freedom of movement and not get accosted by terrorists every step of the way, I choose to register my car, just so I've got a, you know, because it all comes up on cameras now. If you're driving an unregistered car, it just comes up on a camera, they get alerted, a cop car comes out and finds you and they take you away, and that's the way it is. If you try to argue your rights in Australia and stand in common law or anything like that, they throw you in the nut house. They say, well, obviously you're insane because you believe that police don't have any jurisdiction, so we'll throw you into the green bin for 3 months and drug you up and see how you feel at the end of that. And if not, then we might choose to paint you as one of these sovereign citizens, as if there actually is such a thing, such as Desi Freeman, who is still on the run in Victoria. They don't know whether he's alive or dead, they don't know where he is. There's been absolutely no sightings of him since he disappeared the day of the event, which is interesting. So this is what they do in Australia. So you can't stop and argue your rights with Australian cops. They're brain-dead morons, and as soon as you start trying to claim that you have any rights at all, they'll basically arrest you and throw you in the nut house for examination. And like I said, possibly accuse you of having terrorist ties for daring to think for yourself. So that's why I have a registered vehicle in Australia. But that's my only ties to the system. I don't use any of their government departments. I just don't have anything to do with these people whatsoever. I just take the necessary steps needed to give me freedom of movement. Though that might soon stop with all this digital ID stuff coming in around the world. I mean, it's pretty freaky the way it's coming in here in Europe. And yeah, so I mean, I hope I can return to Europe. I really do, folks. I hope that I do. But anyway, I think that's about all I've got to say on this report. I've been trying to keep it short. I mean, the last one was like 2.5 hours long, and I was exhausted when I did it, so it's a little discombobulated. And I'm glad I don't have to talk about Charlie Kirk anymore, because as I said, Jeff put out 2 great videos, which I highly recommend you go and check out if you want to have a look at all the concepts and all the theories of what's going on with Charlie Kirk, because he really captured all of them in those 2 videos. And as he put it in his title, you know, the rabbit hole goes very, very deep. But again, you know, it's all a distraction from this smart grid. And you know, the smart grid, really, everything that's happening, the whole digitization of everything, I've often said that people are being led into the mainframe. And I said for years and years that they've created a digital barrier between you and the abundance of the earth, which is basically your birthright, it's your inheritance, it's what you came here to experience. And they've superimposed this system over the top of it. And it's all mind control. A whole lot of it is mind control. You know, the belief in authority, the belief in government, the belief in religions, the belief in these different religions arguing with each other about what the belief is. I mean, all this stuff is it's all a construct, folks. It's all been put in place to keep you in this bubble. And as I've been trying to say since my very first film and my very first radio appearance, is that what's happening here is a remembering, and that's all you need to do, is to remember yourself. Remember what it was to be a child. Remember that little inner you. I remember so much about my childhood, folks. I remember when I was 18 months old and I was still in the cot. I remember actually when I must have only been a few months old. I was in the cot and my mother was rubbing my legs because I used to get a lot of pain in my legs when I was very, very young. I was probably only 6 months old. And I have a glimpse of my mother standing above me, and I was in a cot with wooden sides, and she was rubbing my legs, rubbing oil into my legs, because my legs were aching. Apparently the doctor had said that I had rheumatoid arthritis or something like that. Or no, what was it called? It was called infantile rheumatism. Don't know. But that's what I was told years later. That's what my mother told me. I remember that. I remember being a toddler, and we were out at a picnic one day, and I was looking off a cliff. I was looking down and thinking how amazing it was at the bottom of the cliff. And I was just half turning around. I was going to go and tell my family about look what's down there. And as I turned, my sister grabbed me and took me back to the picnic, and everyone praised her because she'd saved my life. And I tried saying, no, she didn't save my life. I was fine. I was just having a look down the bottom of the cliff, and I was coming back to tell you about it. She didn't save my life. And I tried to tell them that, but all I could do was go. I couldn't talk. I was too young to talk. I hadn't learnt language yet. I remember sitting down, I'm just pouting. I was pissed off, and I was upset and angry for the rest of the barbecue, or the rest of the picnic, because I couldn't talk and I couldn't tell them what I wanted to say. Which just goes to show, how much children take in and how aware they actually are. I mean, if you can remember these little bits about your childhood, I'm sure many of you can, then you realise how aware children are, and you realise just how much these children are taking in Gaza. These children are traumatised for life, like bombs going off incessantly for the first 2 years of their life. It's insane, folks. And the amount of children that have been killed. I mean, these are the most evil people on earth, and it's difficult to say that. But again, you could say, well, there's Jews that aren't evil. I would agree that, yeah, they are. There's Jews that aren't evil, but then why do they call themselves Jews? Because when you look at the notion of what it means to be a Jew, the whole concept is to destroy Amalek. If you're not focused on that and you're not working towards that greater good, then you're not following the faith. So why do you call yourself a Jew? Because it's not a race, it's a faith. And most of the people who do call themselves Jews appear to be Europeans. This brings in a lot of credence to the theory of the Khazars. Other people call them Ashkenazis or whatever, but the thing is, it's not a race, it's a faith. So if you don't support what Israel is doing, and okay, that's fine. I'm sure there's some Jews who don't support what Israel is doing, but if you actually follow the faith enough to call yourself a Jew, and the ultimate goal is to destroy Amalek, if you're a good person, then why do you call yourself a Jew? And if you don't believe in all that stuff, then why do you call yourself a Jew? So it's a weird question, folks. It's a weird question, but it's a death cult. Judaism is a cult of death. And what the Zionists have done to it, I mean, this is like death cult on steroids. People like Ben Gvir and Beelzebub Smoker Dick saying all the stuff they say, and wanting to keep these activists, these people trying to bring food aid to Gaza, put them all in prison. And because of Trump's peace plan and all this sort of stuff, which isn't a peace plan, it's a plan for total domination or annihilation. That's your choice. Capitulation or annihilation. Last card that you've got to play. So if you choose to remain alive at all, you better accept this, or else I'm just going to let BB murder all of you, every man, woman and child, every goat, everything. Destroy it all. That's Trump's peace plan. So because of this, and people celebrating that Trump's actually bringing peace to the Middle East when all of the wars have been contrived by the same country, and this has been the plan all along, order out of chaos, people are going to forget all about these flotilla people languishing away in jail, and Israel may well keep them there for months. You know, and whatever you think of Greta Thunberg, I mean, personally, I think she's a useful idiot. I think her parents basically set her up and bred her and groomed her to be this climate change person. And over the period of time, she's made a bit of money and she's got a little bit of notoriety, and she kind of tends to take herself too seriously. But you know, she's not superhuman. I think she actually genuinely cares about the people of Palestine, but I think there's also a reason those people who organised the flotilla, and some will say it's Greta, well, I'd say that she probably had people organising it for her on her behalf or whatever. It was organised to happen at this same time when Trump was going to announce his peace plan. The Arabs were going to be doing their peace plan. Trump was going to override that with his peace plan. I mean, all this stuff has happened all at the same time. The government shut down, the killing of Charlie Kirk, so people don't know where to keep their attention focused. We've got the genocide in Gaza, we've got the flotilla going there, we've got the murder of Charlie Kirk, we've got the government shut down. All these things happening at once, and instantly there's a peace plan in the middle of it. You know, this would indicate that, well, you know, Gaza is now at peace anyway, so Greta Thunberg didn't even have to put her silly flotilla together and go and get all those people in trouble and blah, blah, blah. You can see how they could easily play this, because Trump created peace anyway, and with the apparent agreed release of any hostages, alive or dead, that Hamas is still holding, should come a clause that you will also release all of the people in the flotilla, some of whom include US veterans who simply don't like genocide. So, you know, all this stuff is happening at the same time, and it's all a distraction. And all you have to do to deal with what's coming is to remember who and what you are. See, this has been the whole thing, like I said, folks, right from my first video, my first film, my first radio interview, and any of this stuff. It's been about the great remembering. You know, a lot of the stuff that I've said on the radio shows and in the videos, people have contacted me, or even in the comments, and they've said, wow, Max, what you're saying, you know, it's what I would have said if I had the words to say it. And it's like you're speaking for me, or I'm speaking through you. And it's like, I know all the stuff you're talking about to be true, but I've forgotten. You know, I'd forgotten, but it's like I already know this stuff, and that's the point, you do. You know, we've had so much taken from us, the loss of our language. You know, there's no words to explain true spirituality in English. This is what the Shakespearean Revolution was all about, which wasn't some playwright from England, wasn't William Shakespeare. Very likely all of Shakespeare's works were crafted by the Bacon Society, and the idea was to redefine the English language into more simplistic terms and basically merge it with legalese so that English people wouldn't really know what they were saying anymore, and there'd be legal meanings attached to all the stuff that they're saying, and they simply wouldn't know it. You know, all this stuff was done by design, folks. And that's why they want English to go out as the main language around the world as well, because it's very easy to control people through English because they don't really know what they're saying. I mean, we could go and do a whole show about this, legalese and, you know, along the side of English, and I've spoken about it many, many times in the past anyway, so there's no point to really go through that. But, you know, when I say people don't remember who and what they are, like all of this stuff has led to a loss of humanity. Just belief in authority itself, the scholastic system, the education system, indoctrination system doesn't educate you on anything. Just doctrinates you into believing the system is real. This is what it's for and what it's designed to do. And all of this has been about remembering. But it's crazy, folks, like the stuff they're doing. I mean, a lot of it is backfiring on them, and people are seeing that, hang on a minute, this doesn't make sense. I mean, the government simply isn't serving us. Why is the country in the state that it's in if the government is supposed to be there to service us and protect us? And why is this genocide going on? Why is all this stuff going on? Why did Charlie Kirk get shot? All this sort of stuff. It's all happening because people have forgotten themselves. You know, like, this reality could be anything we want it to be if we would simply believe in ourselves. There's so much of it is a projection. I did whole movies about this. You know, the awakening, how we are emotionally controlled into basically accepting our own slavery system. We're taught that we are people of little worth. There are other more important people around who make decisions, all of this sort of stuff. This is the root of the whole problem. You know, when I've said so many times that we could change the world in a day if people simply remembered their own power, that's what all this has been about. That's why I've never put a monetary value on anything. I've never had anything to sell. I've never monetized my accounts. I didn't monetize my YouTube account when monetization came in. Incidentally, I might actually try and upload this video to YouTube and just see what happens. I can use a friend's phone number here in Croatia as the ID number. They actually suggested it to me, so I might take them up on that offer and actually upload this video to YouTube and just see if it lasts. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if it actually gets uploaded and it lasts, all those people that have been looking for me for the last 5 years since my channel went down, you will find me on BitChute. If you look in the comments below, if it's posted in the comments, if YouTube will allow me to do that, I don't know. Or if not, you can go to my website, TheCrowhouse.com, and you can click the link, the BitChute link on my website. I'm also on Odyssey and I'm on Rumble. So those of you who've been wondering where I've been, well, I've been here the whole time. I just haven't been on YouTube. I got deleted everywhere. I got deleted on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, like everywhere. I lost contact with so many people. I went to Australia recently and the police kept me in customs for 3.5 hours, stole my phone, so I lost all my WhatsApp contacts, all my Skype contacts. I mean, I lost pretty much everything. I've been just blacklisted everywhere. So it'll be interesting to see how long this video actually does last on YouTube, if it lasts at all. So yeah, I figured I'd try it anyway. I mean, what are they going to do, shut me down? Well, they already have, so, you know. But maybe one video will get out to people and you'll be able to find where you can find me, which again, as I said, is BitChute, Odyssey and Rumble. I'm also on X for the moment, on my 4th X account. They've shut me down 3 times previously. I'm on my 4th account now, and that account is Max TheCrowhouse. That is my official X account. There's a lot of imposters on there. Just don't worry about them, folks. That's the way it goes. But anyway, yeah, I think that's about all I've got to say. Like I said, this is a time of great remembering. And if people simply remember their own power, we got this. I mean, all of our governments are in abuse of office. They're all in breach of trust. And we need to all express a loss of confidence in them and withdraw service from these people. We don't need revolution, because revolution is what they want. We need to identify the evil in the world and where that comes from. And the main evil in this world, unfortunately, comes from the people in small hats. That's just the way it goes. So we need to deal with that problem. You know, no, I'm not suggesting a final solution or anything like that. Well, yeah, a final solution in as much as we need to put these people somewhere or they'll stop messing with the rest of the world. I would suggest Jewish autonomous oblast, a state that was set up for them in 1932 and 1934 in eastern Russia. That'd be a good spot to put them, or in Madagascar, though I don't know how the Madagascan people would feel about that. I mean, personally, I think they belong in Antarctica or something like that. But I don't know. They've got their fingers in everything is the problem. All the technology, all the porn. And for such a small amount of people on Earth, they've maneuvered themselves into such positions of control. The United States is virtually an occupied country now. And Trump is just totally working for Israel and doing all he can to usher in this smart grid. And they've let this genocide in Gaza go to the extreme so that Trump can be portrayed as the hero for bringing a ceasefire about. And like I said, his plan for peace in the Middle East is basically to give full control to Israel, and he will probably even support the Greater Israel Project, because, you know, soon after this happens, I mean, Israel isn't going to honour the ceasefire anyway. It never does. It's still bombing Lebanon. It's a ceasefire in Lebanon. It's bombing houses and churches and all sorts of stuff. You know, the people in Gaza City, you know, people all below this certain line, like the IDF cut the line in half in Gaza City, and they said all the people north of the line need to go south. If you stay north of this line, you will be perceived as a terrorist and get what's coming to you. And there are about 700,000 people who couldn't get across that line because of the conditions of the place and the lack of money and the lack of transport, and some of them are old and infirmed and injured. And there's also there's a Christian church in that area, a whole group of Christian choir boys. These are all now in the firing line. And as I said, if Israel does accept a ceasefire, and it would appear that they have, then it's not going to come into effect immediately. They'll say you've got to, you know, stop at, like, you know, 12 p.m. on Monday or whatever, you know. They always draw it out for another 24 or 48 hours. Israel will use that time to carry out as many attacks as possible. Random shootings, random bombings. They will go in there with every single thing they've got and drop it on Gaza, and then they will finish on the stroke of midnight and not before. That's the way they do it. That's what they did in Iran as well. Actually, Trump pretended he was a bit pissed off about that. As soon as he announced a ceasefire with Iran, Israel went in there hell for leather and just bombed everything they could right up until the stroke of midnight. They do the same thing in Lebanon. They do the same thing all the time. While they can strike from a distance, they will do it. They're cowards when you put them in close contact, which is why they've got all these weapons and armoured vehicles and snipers and warplanes and tanks and all the stuff they've got, because they don't want to go in there and actually face the enemy themselves. And even all the videos you've seen of, you know, Israeli battle sequences, IDF, you know, battling the enemy in Gaza, it's just videos of guys poking their heads around doorways and shooting into empty buildings and shooting at empty buildings. There's been no footage whatsoever that has come out during this entire war, which isn't a war. There's been no footage whatsoever of two enemy forces battling each other. You know, a standoff. You've got Hamas in this building firing at the Israelis and the Israelis firing back. There's been none of that anywhere. All you've seen is Israelis firing in or at empty buildings, firing into schoolrooms and putting on ladies' lingerie, and just basically partying at the expense of the Palestinians, destroying their homes, and even commandeering their homes to use as command centres, and once they're finished in the command centre, they blow the house up. The United States has also given them giant bulldozers. Like, these things are freaking giant bulldozers, so they can destroy the Palestinian homes and level Gaza City more effectively.
אז הנה אנחנו פה במוצאי יום כיפור, וקיבלתי מתנה מטראמפ, תודה רבה טראמפ. הנה ה-D9 של זרבי, הנה! איזה חדש, הנה! קיבלנו כלי חדש עכשיו, יצא מהתנור, ואיתו מזרבבים את עזה. גמר חתימה טובה, שנה טובה לכולם.
This is the guy who's just proclaimed peace in the Middle East and says he's eligible for a Nobel Peace Prize. Interesting how that works, eh? Yeah, but all this is happening on our watch, folks, and, you know, are you enjoying the show? I mean, you've got to admit there's certainly a lot going on, and it's all for your benefit. And, you know, they're doing all this stuff to distract you while this smart grid is coming out. And really, when you step back and look at it, I mean, I've been predicting all this stuff for years, and so many people have been expecting this to come. And in many ways, it's, you know, I mean, I'm not going to comply with any of it. And you know, what happens, happens. I don't really care. I mean, I'm going to die one day anyway. It doesn't really matter how it happens. You know, as long as it's not too painful. Then, I mean, that's what I came here to do. So I don't really care. I don't have any stake in any of this. And it's absolutely fascinating, and it's highly entertaining to watch them trying to roll all this shit out and seeing the amount of pushback they're getting. So, are you enjoying the show, folks?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Yeah, and that's one way to look at it. Maybe this is what we came here for, folks, to simply be entertained, and all of that got hijacked. I think we came here to basically see what our metal is, see what we're worth. Like I've said before many times, if you think of this as being a collective human consciousness, we probably came here to purify the soul of the collective. This is all a form of soul purification. And even if you can't stop what's going on in Gaza and stop what's going on with all these murders and poisonings and all the criminal activity around the world, I mean, at least you can not participate in it and you can leave here with your soul intact. Personally, I think this has been going on for a really long time. As I've said, I mean, I don't think any of this is random. I think, and as I've said before, I think there's more evidence to suggest we're living in some sort of holographic simulation than anything else. That's why I don't do religion. I don't do any of that sort of stuff, folks. I think all of it leads you away from source, creator, whatever that is, that a lot of people would like to call God. Plane flying overhead. I can't see. Look at this blue sky, folks. Absolutely incredible blue sky. There's a plane flying directly overhead there. What an incredible blue sky, incredible day. But like I said, I can find more evidence of this being a simulation than anything else. And you know, I sometimes wonder about all this sort of stuff, even with the number 33. Number 33 comes up a ridiculous amount of times. Everything's 33. There are 3 hats on the table there with Charlie Kirk. 47, 47, 47. 47, of course, being Trump, I think, being the 47th president, is that right? But then, you know, 47, you know, 4 and 7 is 11, and 3 of them is 33. Kash Patel saying it took 33 hours to capture him, when it actually didn't. It actually took, I think, 38 or 39 hours to capture him, if you really look at it. Again, Jeff goes through all this on those recent videos. But 33. Where does all this come from? I mean, are they really signaling each other, or is this simply the way the matrix works? Is 33 some type of pivotal geometric number, you know, essential for the equation to run the way it does and for the algorithm to run the way it does? Is that what all this is about? I mean, I have to wonder, folks. Like I said, I can find more evidence of this being a simulation than anything, and I think they've done all of this before. All of the floods, all the lost civilizations, all of this sort of stuff. I think these are all from previous resets. Like they're doing now, I've often, like probably 100 times, referred to the legends of the scrying mirrors. You know, the black mirrors that people look into that show them the future and the past and blah, 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 and said how these are cell phones. All the sigils for summoning demons are all electrical circuitry. But even what is a demon? I mean, if you're in a primitive previous culture, maybe you would call people like Benjamin Netanyahu demons, Donald Trump demons, all of these Hollywood actors, all these, you know, Madonna and all these people who get up there, you know, Christina Aguilera, who get corrupted and they do all these demonic ceremonies on stage, you know, broadcasting spells, you know. Maybe this is the demons that they're talking about. Maybe it's simply technology itself that they're talking about. Maybe that is the demon that they're warning people of. You know, and we're given this concept of demons being these scary little people that you know, have horns and tails and scales and all sorts of stuff like that. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's simply the technological demon that we have unleashed by allowing ourselves to disconnect from reality, disconnect from nature, and simply plonk ourselves in front of a television and then gradually get led from that television into this whole virtual nightmare they're leading the world into now. And once everybody becomes completely and utterly dependent upon that technology to run every single aspect of their lives, and they forget even who and what they are. They forget all of their communication skills, all of their life skills. People don't even know how to communicate in conversation anymore. They have to text each other or send videos to each other or get likes on Snapchat or whatever. They don't know what it means to even be human anymore. And then you take that away from them. Like they're talking about doing with the internet censorship bill in Australia, and basically isolating children, saying you can't log on to social media until you're 16 or something like that. And a lot of kids, like 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids now, are all on social media talking to their friends. They don't do bad things. They just play games. They don't go looking at porn or any of that sort of shit. They don't bully each other. A lot of the bullying probably comes from bot farms and stuff. All this sort of stuff has been designed to create this scenario. So you're starting to take this away from people. And again, this will train children to be super, super compliant once they do get a license to go online. Fancy needing a license to go online, getting a license to go fishing, for God's sake. Got a lot of these trawlers out there just mass stripping the oceans of fish. But if you get a fishing pole and go down the beach and want to catch a couple of bream, then no, you're contributing to environmental disaster. You're depleting the oceans. It's freaking insane, folks. But yeah, all this sort of stuff, I mean, they've got people completely dependent upon a system. And a lot of people don't know any life without this system. Now they bring in all this digital ID and say it's voluntary. It's voluntary. But if you don't get it, then you can't use the system, which means you can't use your credit card, which is all these people have known. You can't access your cryptocurrency. You can't fly anywhere. You can't eat red meat this week because you've already had too much. You can't do this. You can't support petrol cars and gasoline cars. You've got to get an electric car. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You've got to walk between these lines. And if you step outside these lines at all, or question why you have to walk between these lines, then we will switch you off. And you will have no contact with anybody around you to even be able to tell them, because you don't have any landline phones. You can't just jump in your car and go and tell your friends what's going on because it's an electric car and it's been disabled because you're blacklisted. You can't do anything. You can't spend any money. You can't contact anybody or tell them, and suddenly you're red flag. So if police just see you wandering around somewhere, they might think, well, there's that person that's been completely locked out of the system. Obviously he can't do anything, or can't buy food, or can't get housing, or can't do anything. So we should take him into custody for his own benefit and take him to a re-education centre to see if we can turn him into a desirable rather than an undesirable. Like I said, folks, if there's any hill that you intend to die on, this is it.
They can only implement all the aspects of Agenda 2030 and its controls if they have digital ID. So if we can stop digital ID, it's very, very difficult to see how we can end up with a dystopian future, which I believe is in line for us. And if you look on the government's website, it says we remain aligned to Agenda 2030. But we never debated it in Parliament. No one ever talks about it. It's just there in the background, and all the policies are taking us that way. So if you sign up for digital ID, if you say yes to digital ID, I fear you'll never be able to say no to the government again. And whether people are still, not everyone is hot under the collar about being lied to about the vaccines. Some people say they want to put it in the past. But what it has done, it's taken trust in governments around the world to a record low levels. And I don't see any reason they're coming back. Now, in politics, I think, the true leader says to people, this is my shared vision of our future. Come with me and let's make it a reality. Whereas the false leaders we seem to have at the moment, they will make promises they know they can't keep. People won't follow them. They can't lead people because people won't follow them. So therefore, instead of leading, they have to control. And digital ID will be a massive tool of control. It'll always be sold to you as it's for your own convenience and for your own security. And there's an old saying that if you're ever willing to trade your freedom for security, you'll end up with neither freedom nor security. And the only person it's going to be convenient for will be the government. And we will be like prisoners out on license, where we're tagged, and they'll know exactly where we are and what we're doing all the time. And if we give into this, future generations, it's not just about us, it's about future generations that will be condemned to that. They will never know the freedoms that they didn't have. And that can't be allowed to happen.
If they manage to put this in place, while everybody's distracted with arguing over Charlie Kirk and, debating whether Trump's peace plan is viable and, whether the Arabs are the good guys or the Jews are the bad guys or what's going on, all this sort of stuff, and distracted by all this crap, then this is going to come online. And the only thing that is going to stop it is our complete non-compliance. And again, withdrawing service from the people that are attempting to enslave humanity this way. You don't have to put up with this. Maybe, you don't want to have a revolution, you're a non-violent person, you don't want to do anything untoward, you don't want to get yourself in trouble. You don't believe that there's anybody you can vote in or out to fix the problem, and you're correct, because you can't. There is no political remedy to any of this. Well, one thing you can do is withdraw service from all of these people. That's something we can all do. Maybe if enough people actually wake up to themselves and realize that we are the ones with the power, then we could change it. Like I said, this is all, it all functions like an algorithm. There's too many coincidences. The coincidences of the scrying mirrors, of 33s. There's just so much going on here, which would indicate that it's like Bill Hicks said, we're the imagination of ourselves. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually are lying in some container, like in the Matrix, and we're simply watching the movie of our lives. Only, it's like Jeff says, it's a 3D video game, and you get to participate and you get to change the direction that you're going. And the ultimate goal of the game is to find your way out of the Matrix, but you have to know who and what you are. You have to do the work on yourself. Sure, it's good to be physically strong and healthy and all that sort of stuff, but you're going to die anyway. That's a good part of it. But it's also in here, it's also the mind, it's also how you view the game, it's also whether you're seeking for the answers to come from anywhere that is actually external to yourself. There's all sorts of gurus, and there's people you can follow who can show you certain ways of doing things, but ultimately it all comes down to you. Most gurus, when they start stating absolutes, this is happening, this is doing this is this, and this is that, that's when you've got to start being concerned about them. Because as I've said, the reality is, and the real truth, is that nobody knows what the truth is, and that's the truth. This is all an experiment to find out what that truth is, but ultimately it's an experiment to find a way out of the Matrix. Like I said, it's a form of soul purification. That's how come I can look at all of this stuff and have no real attachment to it. I mean, sure, sometimes you do. It drags you in. I mean, after 2 years of looking at blown up children, I got very sick when I was in Mexico before I left Jeff's place. And because I'd let it draw me in. And even the last video that I did, I was completely exhausted. And I was feeling frustrated and thinking, what's the point of doing these videos? I've been doing this for 18 years. I've been sitting there editing videos for 18 years. And the world hasn't changed, so, what's the point of continuing to do it? But no, I mean, every time I do these videos, I grow in myself, and I can see that there's people that are getting benefit from it. I can see that there's people that need this information, and ultimately there's only one of us here anyway, so why am I going to opt out at this crucial point? But sometimes, I mean, it gets a little tiring, folks. It really does. I'm like 68 years old this month, and I'm still just traveling around, and I still don't live anywhere, and I mean, I lived my whole life basically this same way in bands and toured around all the time and never had any real ties anywhere. But I guess my body's just getting a little weary. I'm getting a little old for long haul flights and getting a little old for wandering around with a stick talking to a camera, But hey, is that just an illusion as well? Is that simply my mind saying that? Because how old am I? I mean, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? If we weren't fed the concept by, was it Pope Gregory? Good old Pope Gregory. if we weren't fed the concept that every time the Earth goes around the sun, like we live in a heliocentric system, and every time the Earth goes around the sun, we get a year older. If we weren't having that drummed into us since we were born, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? You look at some of the biblical tales and some of the stories from the past where people lived for like hundreds of years. Was that because it was a different environment and there was a water canopy, like some people say, or any number of reasons why this could have happened? But what if it was because there was no real concept of time? I mean, time is a man-made construct, absolutely. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? And how many times have we come back to play this game because we never found our way out of the matrix while we were here? We got too distracted with all sorts of stuff. Gaza, wars, famine, climate change. So much stuff. So much stuff. Have you actually looked at the list of things that they gave us to be scared of since the 1960s and predictions that they made? And this list is actually a couple of years old. But have a look at some of the things we need to fear that they told us we needed to fear back from, I think, around about 1966 or 1967. Crazy stuff, folks. That's what we've been fed for so long, and we look externally at all this sort of stuff, not ever just looking around and saying, look around, I don't see any climate change. I don't see any of the stuff they told me was going to happen actually happening. All I see is them claiming these things are about to happen and humanity's going to be devastated if they don't take action, and their action is always to introduce new legislation which is going to remove more of your rights, so that now you need a license to go fishing, for God's sake. Soon you'll need a license to walk your dog in the park. Soon you'll need a license to even leave your house at the way we're going. That's all coming with their smart grid, folks. Never have any fear of that. But yeah, it's crazy what it's become. And when people, it really sinks into their mind what this smart grid is, I mean, they'd be running for miles from this. As I said, I've been warning people about this for the last 15 years since my film Transformation, and I've been screaming from the rooftops about this. It's been a huge focus of so many of my shows since 2016. And it's good to see that so many people are talking about it now. I just hope it isn't too late. But they're just making a mockery of us. I mean, even with what happened with the Charlie Kirk shooting, there's so many different explanations for it. Bullet came from here, bullet came from there, exploding freaking pager, whatever it was, microphone. So much stuff. Hologram. Didn't happen. It was a blood pack. I mean, all of it is believable. So many different things. Must be 6 or 10 different concepts of how it all went down and who the shooter was and all this sort of stuff. And all of them are possible. And then no autopsy, no anything, no death certificate, no funeral, no grave, none of this. Where's the funeral? Why wasn't the funeral on TV? Where's the gravestone? Where's all this sort of stuff? None of it. It's just they're making a complete mockery of us, saying it was this guy on the roof. They show us the video of the guy running off the roof, but they didn't go back 10 seconds and shows him actually taking the shot. No, they just cropped the video so we only saw him from that little thing on the roof, the room on the roof, to when he jumped off, and he loses his shadow halfway through the run anyway. I mean, it's a joke. They're making a mockery of people with this. And they're even making a mockery of people thinking they're going to be able to vote their way out of it. There was a recent campaign saying that J.D. Vance should run for president in 2008, and they're even saying it's his bid for the 2008 Hunger Games. I mean, you can't make this shit up, folks. They're just taking the piss out of people at this point. They really are. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I've been babbling on for ages. I wanted to try to keep this video short. But hey, enjoy the show. Enjoy the show, folks, because you ain't seen nothing yet. And this is what you came here for. And you shouldn't think that you have any real stake in the outcome, because, you know, you're going to leave here eventually anyway. It's just your choice as to how you do leave. And don't start hating people. With everything Israel's done and everything these Jews have done, I don't hate them for it. I speak out against them, and I will never give them the time of day or do any business with them or give them any credence whatsoever. But that isn't a matter of hating them. It's a matter of simply doing what needs to be done. Recognizing evil for what it is, but I'm not going to become that evil by reducing myself to hatred, because that's not what all this is about. As I've said, these are the most programmed people on earth. They're literally bred into this type of mentality. They've got this Amalek shit driven into them. They're brought up in their schools and trained to hate Arabs. All the kids are trained to, you know, have a, you know, obsession with guns from a very young age. They take their kids to gun shows and do all sorts of crap like that, and they teach them the most horrendous things in Israeli schools. So they're the most programmed kids on earth. Ultimately, they need love as well, because perhaps if they had had love, they never would have become the evil, demonic supporters of mayhem and genocide that they are. It's where religion falls down, folks. I have said many times, I think all religion is demented. It just leads you away from God. And all of these three Abrahamic religions have been designed to pit people against each other and create this war between East and West so that Amalek can be destroyed. So that gives you a clue as to who created all these religious concepts. Personally, I think Jesus, if he existed, he was an anarchist. Telling people you don't need the state, you don't need religion, you all have your direct connection to the divine if you could just remember who and what you are. Apparently he said on some occasion that, you know, people who say that, you know, they think I'm great. Well, you know, wait till you see what you can do. It's just that people don't realise their own power. But anyway, folks, I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report. Thank you, as usual, to all the people who send me so many kind emails. Thank you to all the people who choose to contribute. If you can, there is a link below to my contribution page on the website. I could always use the support, folks. As I've said, I've never monetized anything. All of this has just been a one-man show, done at my own expense and with the help of those who choose to contribute. So thank you for that. Take care of yourself. Don't get too caught up in everything. Don't get too emotionally involved. I mean, when you do, you get sick. I'm living proof of that. I got too emotionally involved a couple of months ago and I got quite sick for a week. And realise all this has been done basically to educate you and to educate humanity and to purify the human consciousness anyway. So don't believe that you really have a stake in the outcome. It doesn't matter what you think you own or what fashion you believe you should participate in, or where you live, or any of that sort of stuff. What matters is who you are, what you are. You're a beautiful, perfect expression of God consciousness. Everybody is. And as soon as we remember that, refuse to comply with wrong behavior, refuse to comply with anything which causes us to step outside our moral compass, don't get led into the mainframe, don't accept digital cash and digital ideas. The world is around you. You don't need to live your life online. There's a whole world around you. I mean, I can talk. I spend so much time in front of the computer researching and preparing these videos. That I mean, that's something else I've sacrificed to try to bring this information to people. I mean, my life, my social activity. I spend so much time online and in front of the computer and editing videos trying to help humanity overcome this crisis that I've kind of sacrificed a lot of stuff myself, folks. So, you know, it's time for us to become human again, and me as well. It's just why I'm doing less and less videos and get some time to myself, you know, a bit of time for meditation, a bit of time for just observing the beauty of the world. I mean, the world is an incredibly beautiful place, folks. Look at these donkeys over here. A couple of donkeys. A couple of horses over there. Little ponies. The little one is a stallion. It's the foal of the other one, which is obviously its mother. But they're quite small. And these donkeys, there's one male and one female. Lovely creatures. And as you saw earlier, sheep that tend to run around and do the bolt when they're not supposed to. They've simply gotten out of their pasture. And these are all just pets, folks. I mean, they're not going to eat the sheep. They've got a couple of cows as well. They're not going to eat them. They're just all pets. They just like having animals around. So, yeah, beautiful people. Beautiful place to be. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.
كل